Society tells us that a man needs a long list of friends to be successful, that the louder his crowd, the greater his worth. But what if that's a lie? What if the true path to unshakable confidence isn't found in the noise of the many, but in the silence of solitude? Think about it. What if the key to real strength, to genuine clarity, lies in walking alone or with just a chosen few? What if having no friends or only a small, trusted circle isn't a sign of weakness, but a mark of true power? A man with no friends or a very tight-knit circle is a man who's lacking. He's a man who's deliberate, discerning and deeply rooted in his own sense of self. He knows who he is and he doesn't need a crowd to validate his worth. The noise of the crowd can be deafening, can't it? Society pushes this narrative that a man's worth is somehow tied to the size of his social circle. Social media has only amplified this idea, turning human connection into a numbers game. It flaunts likes, followers, and comments as though they're the ultimate proof of value. But here's the thing, being surrounded by people doesn't mean you're truly connected to any of them. It's easy to mistake noise for significance. Crowds may clap, but that applause doesn't guarantee authenticity, nor does it fill the deeper void of real human connection. True security, the kind that anchors you, doesn't come from the volume of the applause. It comes from knowing that you don't need it to keep moving forward. A man with no friends or only a small, tight-knit circle understands this deeply. He sees through the illusion of numbers. He knows that having a crowd around you can sometimes be more isolating than standing alone. Shallow relationships, ones that thrive on convenience or mutual benefit rather than genuine care, often do more harm than good. They drain your energy, they complicate your life with unnecessary drama, and they distract you from your own path. This man has chosen a different road. He values peace over pretense, quality over quantity. He refuses to compromise his well-being just to fit society's expectations. To him, solitude is not a sign of failure, but of strength. This isn't a choice made lightly. It's not easy to walk against the grain, to reject the validation of the crowd. But this man knows something many don't, the power of selectivity. He understands that not everyone deserves access to him. It's not arrogance, it's discernment. Not everyone who claps for you is doing so with love or admiration. Some people clap only because they're waiting for you to fail, eager to revel in your stumble. That's why this man is selective. He values his energy and his time too much to squander it on people who bring negativity, chaos, or manipulation into his life. He's built a fortress around his peace, and only those who respect his boundaries and align with his values are allowed in. It takes courage to live like this. It takes strength to say, I'd rather walk alone than walk with people who don't respect me. This isn't an easy stance to take, especially in a world that equates being alone with being lonely. But this man understands that solitude and loneliness are not the same thing. Solitude is a choice, an intentional state of being that allows for self-reflection, growth, and clarity. Loneliness, on the other hand, is a feeling of emptiness, a longing for connection that isn't there. The difference lies in mindset, and this man has mastered his. He's not afraid of the quiet because he knows that in the quiet he can hear his own thoughts more clearly. He can focus on his goals without distraction. In solitude, he's found a strength that many never will. He doesn't need external validation because he's already validated himself. His self-worth isn't tied to the opinions of others or the size of his social circle. It's rooted in his own understanding of who he is and what he stands for. This kind of security is rare and often makes others uncomfortable. People who are deeply reliant on external validation struggle to understand someone who isn't. They misinterpret his independence as aloofness or arrogance. But the truth is, she's just unwilling to compromise his authenticity to make others feel more comfortable. This man also knows the cost of peace. Peace isn't something that happens by accident. It's something you have to fight for, something you have to protect. And often, protecting your peace means saying no to toxic relationships, no to unnecessary drama, no to people who don't respect your boundaries. It's not always easy to say no, especially when society conditions us to be agreeable, to go along to get along. But this man knows that every yes to something that doesn't serve him is a no to something that does. He's not willing to pay that price. You see, this man has learned the power of boundaries. He knows that boundaries aren't about keeping people out. They're about keeping his life in balance. They're about creating a space where he can thrive, where he can be himself without fear of judgment or manipulation. He's not afraid to walk away from people who don't respect those boundaries because he values his own peace more than he values their approval. This isn't to say that he doesn't value connection, he does, but he values meaningful connection. He's not interested in surface level relationships that don't go deeper than a handshake or like on a post. He's interested in relationships that challenge him, that inspire him, that add value to his life. And those kinds of relationships are rare. They take time, effort, and mutual respect to build. This man would rather have 1 or 2 relationships like that than 100 shallow ones. The world often looks at a man with no friends or a small circle and assumes he's lonely or that something must be wrong with him. But that couldn't be further from the truth. This man is more secure, more grounded, and more self-aware than most. He's not afraid to be misunderstood because he knows that being misunderstood is often the price of authenticity. He doesn't need to explain himself to those who don't get it because his life isn't about them, it's about him and his journey. This kind of independence is liberating. When you're not tied down by the expectations of others, you're free to live life on your own terms. You're free to pursue your passions, to follow your purpose, and to grow in ways that wouldn't be possible if you're constantly trying to please everyone around you. This man has embraced that freedom and has made him stronger, more focused, and more fulfilled. He's also learned to embrace the discomfort that comes with standing alone. It's not always easy to walk a path that others don't understand. It's not always easy to say no when everyone else is saying yes. But this man knows that growth happens in discomfort. He knows that standing alone is sometimes the only way to truly find yourself. There's a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you don't need anyone else to complete you. It's a confidence that can't be shaken by criticism or rejection because it's not built on anything external. It's built on a deep understanding of who you are and what you're worth. This man has that confidence, and it radiates from him in everything he does. So, the next time you see a man with no friends or a very small circle, don't pity him. Don't assume he's lonely or that he's missing out on something. Instead, recognize the strength it takes to live the way he does. Recognize the courage it takes to prioritize peace over popularity, substance over appearances, and authenticity over approval. This man is not alone because he can't make friends. He's alone because he chooses to be selective. He's not insecure, he's incredibly secure. And in a world that constantly pushes you to seek validation from others, that kind of security is a rare and powerful thing. He's not chasing applause because he doesn't need it. He's not filling his life with noise because he's found peace in the quiet. And that, my friends, is the mark of a truly secure man. The strength in solitude is a concept many people struggle to understand, let alone embrace. In a world where constant connectivity is both a convenience and a burden, solitude often carries a stigma. Being alone is equated with loneliness, and loneliness is equated with failure. But solitude is not the enemy, it's a powerful ally. For the man who has no friends or keeps his circle intentionally small, solitude isn't a burden, it's a tool for self-discovery, growth, and resilience. When a man chooses solitude, he's making a deliberate choice to strip away the distractions and external influences that often cloud judgment and decision making. Alone, he's forced to confront himself. He has to sit with his thoughts, face his fears, and address the parts of himself he might otherwise ignore. While this can be uncomfortable at first, it's also transformative. It's in solitude that he discovers who he truly is, unfiltered by the expectations or opinions of others. Self-awareness becomes his compass, guiding him toward a life that is authentic and aligned with his values. This man sees solitude as an opportunity, not a punishment. While others may fill their time with social interactions to avoid confronting their inner worlds, he embraces the quiet moments. In those moments, he reflects on his journey, assesses his goals and strategies his next steps. Solitude becomes a sanctuary where he can recharge, recalibrate, and rediscover his purpose. It's in these moments of quiet that he finds clarity, the kind that allows him to act with intention and confidence when he steps back into the noise of the world. The man who embraces solitude also cultivates a deep sense of self-sufficiency. He learns to rely on himself, to trust his instincts, and to build his life from within rather than seeking validation or direction from others. This isn't to say that he doesn't value relationships, he does. But his sense of worth and identity doesn't hinge on them. He's not afraid to walk alone because he knows that he's enough, his company is sufficient, his thoughts are valuable, and his time is precious. Contrast this with the chaos that often comes with a large social circle. When your life is crowded with people, it's easy to get caught up in their drama, insecurities, and agendas. A large group can quickly become a breeding ground for gossip, petty arguments, and unnecessary competition. It's draining, distracting, and ultimately unfulfilling. The man with no friends or small circle sidesteps all of that. He's not interested in engaging in conflicts that don't matter or sacrificing his peace to maintain relationships that don't serve him. This man understands the value of quality over quantity. He's not looking to fill his life with acquaintance just to avoid being alone. Instead, he seeks meaningful connections with those who align with his values, respect his boundaries, and add to his growth. And if those connections are few and far between, he's okay with that. He knows that a single genuine relationship is worth more than 100 superficial ones. When you keep your circle small, you minimize the risk of betrayal, disappointment, and unnecessary emotional strain. A secure man knows this, and he's not afraid to let go of relationships that don't support his growth or well-being. It's not an act of arrogance or selfishness, it's an act of self-preservation. He's protecting his peace, his energy, and his focus. The fewer people you have around you, the more time and energy you can dedicate to the things that truly matter. This man channels his resources into his goals, his passions, and his self-improvement. He's not distracted by trying to keep up appearances or manage the expectations of a large group. He's free to prioritize what's important to him without feeling the pressure to conform to the demands of others. This isn't to say that this man doesn't experience challenges. Solitude can be difficult, especially in a world that equates busyness and constant interaction with success and fulfillment. But he understands that true growth often comes from discomfort. In solitude, he finds the strength to face his challenges head-on. He learns resilience, adaptability, and independence. These are qualities that serve him well in every aspect of his life, from his personal relationships to his professional pursuits. The man who embraces solitude also cultivates a deeper understanding of his values and boundaries. When you're constantly surrounded by others, it's easy to lose sight of what's important to you. The noise of other people's opinions, needs, and expectations can drown out your own inner voice. But in solitude, that voice becomes clear. This man takes the time to define his principles, his priorities, and his limits. He learns what he's willing to tolerate and what he's not, and he's not afraid to enforce those boundaries when necessary. Boundaries are essential for maintaining peace and focus, and this man has mastered the art of setting them. He knows that boundaries aren't about keeping people out, they're about creating space for the right people and the right opportunities to come in. He's not afraid to say no to what doesn't serve him because he understands that every no is also a yes to himself, his values and his goals. The strength in solitude is not just about avoiding the negative, it's about embracing the positive. It's about creating a life that is rich in meaning, purpose and fulfillment. This man uses his solitude to explore his passions, develop his skills and pursue his dreams. He's not waiting for someone else to give him permission or validation. He's not waiting for the crowd to cheer him on. He's taking action because he believes in himself and his vision. This kind of independence is rare and it's powerful. It's also misunderstood by many. People often look at a man with no friends or a small circle and assume that he's lonely, antisocial, or unsuccessful. But that couldn't be further from the truth. This man has chosen a path that prioritizes substance over appearances, authenticity over approval, and peace over popularity. The strength in solitude is not about rejecting others, it's about choosing yourself. It's about recognizing that your worth is not determined by the size of your social circle, but by the depth of your character. It's about understanding that being alone doesn't mean being lonely, it means being free to grow, to learn, and to become the best version of yourself. This man has embraced that freedom and has transformed his life. He's not distracted by the noise of the crowd or weighed down by the drama of superficial relationships. He's focused, determined, and at peace. And that, more than anything else, is the mark of true strength. Confidence is often misunderstood in a world where external validation is a currency. People associate confidence with applause, likes, or being the center of attention. But true confidence, it doesn't depend on any of that. It comes from within, and it's one of the defining traits of a man with no friends or a very small circle. This is a man who doesn't seek validation from others because he doesn't need it. His confidence is self-sustained, rooted deeply in his values, purpose, and sense of self. A man who doesn't rely on external validation operates on a different wavelength. He's not moved by the opinions of others because he understands that opinions are fleeting, subjective, and often irrelevant to his journey. He knows his worth is not tied to how others perceive him. Instead, his confidence stems from the work he puts in, the principles he upholds, and the goals he strives to achieve. It's the kind of confidence that doesn't waver when applause is absent or criticism is loud. Such a man walks into any room with the quiet assurance of someone who knows who he is. He doesn't have to prove himself to anyone because he's already proved himself to the most important person himself. This internal fortitude allows him to stand firm even when others might falter. Trends, opinions, or peer pressure don't sway him. He's grounded in his truth, and that's unshakable. When a man is confident without validation, he experiences a kind of freedom that few people ever taste. This freedom allows him to live authentically. He's not bound by societal expectations or the need to conform. Instead, he embraces his individuality and the life he chooses to lead. He doesn't feel the need to mold himself into what others want him to be because he understands the power of being himself. Authenticity is rare in a world obsessed with appearances, but this man doesn't put on facades to fit into groups or gain approval. His authenticity is magnetic not because he's trying to draw people in, but because people are naturally drawn to those who are unapologetically themselves. When you see someone walking in their truth, unburdened by the need to impress, it inspires admiration. It challenges you to question the masks you might be wearing and encourages you to strip them away. This man's authenticity also opens doors to genuine relationships. He doesn't seek connections based on superficialities, he seeks depth. The few people he does allow into his circle are there because they resonate with who he truly is. There's no pretending, no games, and no compromises of integrity. And while his circle may be small, it's solid. The relationships he cultivates are built on mutual respect, understanding, and shared values. Resilience is another hallmark of this man's character. Life's challenges don't discriminate. Everyone faces hardships, setbacks, and heartbreaks. But what sets this man apart is how he handles those moments. When others might crumble under the weight of adversity, he rises not because he's unbreakable, but because he's learned how to rebuild himself when things fall apart. You see, when you rely too heavily on others for support, you risk losing yourself when that support is no longer there. But a man with no friends or a small circle has learned to depend on himself. He's developed an inner strength that allows him to navigate life's storms with grace. This doesn't mean he doesn't feel pain or struggle. It means he's mastered the art of turning pain into progress and struggle into strength. This resilience is forged in solitude. When you face challenges alone, you learn to rely on your own resourcefulness. You develop the ability to adapt, to problem solve, and to persevere. You realize that while others can support you, the responsibility to keep moving forward ultimately rests on your shoulders. This understanding doesn't breed bitterness, it breeds empowerment. A man who has built his resilience knows how to find opportunities in setbacks. He doesn't view failure as a dead end, but as a detour, a chance to learn, recalibrate, and come back stronger. Every challenge he faces becomes a stepping stone, every setback a lesson, and every disappointment a catalyst for growth. This ability to thrive in adversity sets him apart from those who crumble when the road gets tough. When a man relies on his internal confidence and resilience, he gains clarity about what truly matters. He's not distracted by the noise of the crowd or the superficial metrics of success. He measures his progress by his growth, his integrity, and his fulfillment. He doesn't need external validation to feel successful because he defines success on his terms. This clarity also fuels his work ethic. He's not chasing accolades or approval, he's chasing excellence. He pours his energy into his craft, his goals, and his vision because he's driven by purpose, not applause. This kind of focus and determination often leads to success, not the kind that's defined by public recognition, but the kind that's rooted in personal fulfillment and impact. Moreover, this man's confidence and resilience make him a leader. Even if he doesn't have a large audience, people naturally look up to those who are self-assured and unwavering in their convictions. He inspires others not by seeking to lead, but by simply being an example of what it means to live authentically and fearlessly. Living without the need for validation also allows this man to make decisions with integrity. He's not swayed by what's popular or what will earn him praise. He does what he believes is right, even when it's not easy or well received. This kind of integrity builds trust not just with others, but with himself. He knows he can rely on himself to stay true to his values, no matter the circumstances. Confidence without validation is a rare and powerful trait. It allows a man to live authentically, build meaningful relationships, and navigate life's challenges with resilience. It frees him from the pressures of conformity and the distractions of superficial approval. And most importantly, it empowers him to live a life that is true to who he is and what he values. In a world that constantly seeks to define your worth by external measures, the man with confidence without validation redefines the rules. He doesn't need the world's approval because he's already approved of himself. And that, more than anything else, is the foundation of true strength. The right people will find you. Life has an uncanny way of working things out when you focus on what truly matters. It's not about how many people you have around you, it's about having the right people. The man with no friends or a small circle isn't destined to walk through life entirely alone. But here's the key difference: he doesn't chase relationships. He's not out there bending over backward to fit into someone else's mold, nor does he sacrifice his values to be accepted. Instead, this man understands that relationships based on authenticity can't be forced. He's learned that when you're true to yourself, you naturally attract those who are meant to walk your path with you. These are the people who see you for who you are, not for what you can do for them or for the image they want you to uphold. These are the people who will stand by you not because it's convenient, but because they genuinely align with your purpose and values. This man isn't in a rush. He knows that meaningful connections take time to build. He doesn't entertain shallow relationships because he values quality over quantity. And because he's not desperate to fill a void, he's selective about who he allows into his life. That selectivity is not a weakness, it's a strength. It's a testament to his self-worth and his understanding that not everyone deserves a front row seat in his life. A life of purpose and peace. This man isn't missing out by having a small circle. In fact, he's winning. He's chosen to live intentionally, a life rooted in purpose and guided by peace. He's not interested in shallow conversations or fleeting connections. He's focused on what truly matters: his growth, his goals, and his peace of mind. When you focus on building a life of purpose, you become more discerning. You're no longer drawn into the chaos of meaningless drama or the pressure to keep up appearances. You operate from a place of clarity, knowing what's worth your time and energy and what isn't. This focus brings a kind of peace that many people spend their entire lives searching for. People often equate being surrounded by others with happiness, but this man knows better. He's not distracted by the need to be constantly validated by a crowd. Instead, he's fulfilled by the quality of his solitude and the depth of his connections. And because he's not tied to anyone else's expectations, he's free to live authentically and unapologetically, secure in his solitude. This man's confidence doesn't waver in the face of solitude. He understands that being alone doesn't mean being lonely. It means having the space to focus on becoming the best version of himself. Solitude gives him the opportunity to reflect, to grow, and to work on the things that matter most to him. And when the right people do find him, they're drawn to his authenticity. They recognize the strength it takes to walk a path of purpose, and they admire his ability to stand firm in who he is. These connections aren't built on convenience or pretense, they're built on mutual respect, shared values, and a genuine desire to grow together. This man doesn't measure his worth by the number of people around him. He measures it by the life he's building, the impact he's making, and the legacy he's leaving behind. His self-worth isn't dictated by external factors, it's rooted deeply in his understanding of who he is and what he stands for. Strength in selectivity. It's not easy to walk this path. In a world that often celebrates quantity over quality, it takes courage to choose selectivity. But that courage pays off. This man's life is richer because he's surrounded by people who genuinely care about him, not just about what he can offer. He's built a life that's meaningful and fulfilling because he's stayed true to his values. If you find yourself walking a similar path, if you're someone with no friends or a very small circle, take heart. You're not alone in your solitude, you're strong in your selectivity, and you're building a life that's deeply rooted in purpose and authenticity.